So I see that we are live on Facebook. This is very exciting, and we'll just be starting in a few moments. You can get comfortable wherever you are, whatever space you're at, and we'll be starting in a few moments. Okay, Lisa, I think Rabbi Lisa, I was raised to take a deep breath a lot in Keilat Kor Neshama, so maybe you and I can take a deep breath,
Perfect.
and then I'm just gonna we'll start our program, start singing.
Sounds beautiful.
All right, so anyone who's with us can take a deep breath with us, a neshima amuka, and connect to your neshama, connect to your soul. Nai, 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 nai. Hai, dai, 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 nai, nai. Hi, nai, 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 nai. Hi, nai, 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 nai. Hi, nai, 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 nai. Hi, nai, nai. Hi, nai, ai, 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 ai. Hi, nai, 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 nai. Hi, nai, 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 nai. Hi, nai, 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 hi, nai, 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 nai. Hi, nai, 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 nai. Hi, nai, 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 nai. אחת שאלתי מת אדוני אותה אבקש. אחת שאלתי מת אדוני אותה אבקש. שבתי בבית אדוני כל ימי חיי, לחזות בנועם בנועם אדוני ולבקר בהיכלו, לחזות בנועם בנועם אדוני ולבקר בהיכלו. Erev Tov and almost Shavua Tov. I'm here sitting in Jerusalem. It's 3 a.m. And it's so wonderful to see you again and to almost kind of step into the high holiday spirit with you. I'm Shani Benor. I'm currently a rabbinical and cantorial student of HUC in Jerusalem and New York, on my way to a dual ordination to be the first Israeli to be ordained as a Reformed cantor, God willing. And I used to be, not so long ago, a student cantor at Central Synagogue, and ever since have had this amazing relationship with the community. Really feel this is one of my spiritual homes. And so I'm joined with Rabbi Lisa Goldstein, who will soon introduce herself, and I've had the privilege of preparing this program with her, and it's just already been so inspiring. We can't wait to share with you all that we've already learned from each other. I just want to kind of explain, do some housekeeping, that we will be together between 8 and 9 p.m. It's hard. I have to convert the times in my head, but till 9 p.m. we're going to be here. Then we'll take a short 15-minute break, and you can join us on the live stream platforms of Central Synagogue to continue our Havdalah and Slichot service with the Central Synagogue clergy team. So Rabbi Lisa Goldstein, I think people are eager to get to know you as well.
Hi, everyone. Almost Shavua Tov. I'm Rabbi Lisa Goldstein, and I'm a rabbi and teacher of Jewish spiritual practice in the New York area. I'm sitting in my apartment in Washington Heights. And I'm so delighted to be here with all of you and to have had this extraordinary opportunity to work on this program together with Shani, with her wisdom and the beauty of her soul, and really helping us prepare for these holidays that are they're coming up. They are here. So we are starting, and just as soon as Shabbat is over, with Slichot, with really entering into the deep work of these High Holy Day days. Which are also known as the days of awe, the days of really opening up to the awesomeness of our lives. Like, we really get the opportunity to zoom way out and to have a sense of how big the world is, how big our lives are, how small the world is, and how small our lives are. Where we have control over the things around us and where we don't have control, to really sense into that sense of wonder and sometimes even a little bit of fear now and then. But what's beautiful is we get to ground this work that we're doing through these days of awe in love, that everything is grounded in love, and that we get to explore our love for the people in our lives, love for our community, the love for our tradition, the love for God, maybe even little love for ourselves. And this dance that we're going to be doing over the coming 2 weeks of love and awe and awe and love. So that's what we're here to cultivate and to open up, so that we can come into Slichot already a little more present, a little more prepared, with their hearts a little bit more open. So I'm going to hand it back to Shani.
Thank you. That was that helped open my heart, at least, and I want to also direct you, whether if you're here with us on our Zoom group, or if you're joining us on Facebook, we do have a handout sheet. And so you could just open the link on our chat here on Zoom, and I'll be putting it also, make sure to put it on Facebook. And so you could join us and kind of follow the text and the songs that we're going to be sharing. And so we want to start with one of those sources that we thought about. And really, I think the gate of love will hopefully, and we'll make it there also, that maybe already has a place in our hearts. But we actually thought to set the tone and start with the place of awe. Really, it is the days of awe, as you said, Rabbi Goldstein, and it might be something that is hard for us to create room for in our bodies, right? Awe and fear, even though maybe, and we can talk about this as we move along in our program, maybe the world isn't really giving us the privilege of deciding if we want to make space for that emotion and element in our lives. And so it's even more so important to open and giving the sacred space for that. A piyut, a sacred poem that I'd like to share, really resonates with that point, and it's actually designed for a clergy person. And the idea, the piyut agadelcha on your source sheets, the idea is that it's a scary thing to lead a congregation, to lead a sacred community, to lead the Jewish people in prayer, and to take responsibility to be the vessel for that voice, for the communal voice. And so there are a bunch of poems designed for clergy people to recite and to actually ask for permission to say, please give me the strength, and please, as I stand here humble before you, give me the power to do this sacred work. And so that is actually the text of this piyut called the Gadelcha. It's beloved. It's a beloved, popular text and poem here in Israel, widely used, especially by our Mizrahi sisters and brothers. And so you can follow the translation on the source sheet. It's the attachment, one of the attachments below. And the opening words, I will praise you, God of all souls, and I will thank you with great fear and awe. So, here we go. אגדלך אלוהי כל נשמה ועודך ברוב פחד ואימה בעומדי תוך קהלך צור לרומם לך איכה ואחוף ראש וקומה רקי רום הלא נטע במבטא והארץ יסדה על בלימה היוכל ישחק אורץ סוד יוצרו ומי הוא זה בכל קדמה וימה מרומם הוא עלי כל פה ולשון אשר הפליא ועשה כל בחוכמה אשר הפליא ועשה כל בחוכמה ויתקדל בגוי קדוש ועליון ויתקדש שם לרבה בעלמה ויתקדש בגוי קדוש ועליון ויתקדש שם רבה בעלמה.
Oh, that was so beautiful. It's like feeling the desire to want to serve with a whole heart and thinking of the vastness of everything and the awesomeness of that task. And while I think that most of us don't have the responsibility of standing before the kahal, before the congregation to pray on these holy days, we all have huge responsibilities in our lives of different things. And in the midst of what's our situation in the world, some of those responsibilities are magnified all the more. And they're so important. They're so important how we do them and just like considering the awesomeness of them and our desire to do them well and with a whole heart and in alignment with who we want to be in the world. And it's just hard. It's really hard. And we're doing it out of love. I mean, hopefully we're doing it out of love. The goal is to do it out of love. So I think that one of the things that the holidays can bring up for us is um, what's more, which, although love and awe are in some ways two sides of the same coin, but which one takes precedence and why? And as we're opening up into slichot, slichot is about forgiveness and really asking to be forgiven for the places that we were unable to live up to the way that we wanted to, and really thinking about teshuvah and how do we come back? How do we just keep coming back to try and live in greater and greater alignment? And is it better to do that out of fear, out of awe, or is it better to do it out of love? And you can imagine doing teshuvah for all kinds of reasons, right? You can do teshuvah because you're sort of like coming back into alignment because you're afraid of punishment, or you're afraid, I mean, there's a lot of that in our liturgy, afraid of fear of punishment, or, but if we don't subscribe to that theology, which most of us don't, we could be afraid of getting caught, or afraid of the consequences, just being afraid of the consequences. But we could also approach teshuvah from a real sense of love. Like, we want to bring our lives into greater alignment from a real place of open-heartedness and wanting to connect. So it could be love for others that we know that we're hurting and we're trying not to, or love for the world, which holds so much suffering right now, always, but particularly right now. How do we live our lives out of love for the world? Or even love for our innermost selves that is just yearning to be healed in the midst of all of this. So if you look at text number 2 on the handout, there's a really sweet little teaching, a Hasidic teaching by Rabbi Shmelke, who was commenting on a verse from the prophet Hosea that's often talked about when we're talking about teshuvah, where Hosea says, "Return, O Israel, to Adonai, your God." And there's a lot of commentary about what does it mean to return? And we could do a whole thing on what God means in this context. But actually, Rabbi Shmelke is very interested in the word to. What does it mean to return to God? So he says, repentance from fear, from awe, from yirah, reaches God, but actually doesn't get to the full presence of God, because there is no yirah in God. There is no fear in God. God does not, that's a human experience. But repentance from love goes all the way into God's presence directly, because there is love in God as well. So I think what he's pointing to is that teshuvah that comes from that sense of our smallness, comes from our place of limitation. It comes from our own mortality, from our own sense of deep vulnerability. But teshuvah that comes from love is expansive. It has no limits. In the same way that God can be flowing, love too can flow and helps connect us, that part of divinity in us, with this larger reality of love that lies just underneath the surface if we can just look. And that when we do teshuvah out of love, we can actually bring divine love into the world. So when we manifest love, there is more love. And some might even say there's more God. So we're going to do a short meditation now to see if we can experience some of that in our own experience. And then as we're engaging in this dance back and forth of ahava, of love, and yirah, of awe, we're going to follow the meditation with a short selection from the end of Unatana Tokef, which is one of the great piyutim, one of the great poems of our High Holy Day liturgy, which in some ways is an epitome of awe, but as we're going to see, also there's a tremendous amount of love. But first, we're going to do a meditation.
And I just, this is not how we planned it, but
Yeah.
the fear of leading people who don't have the sources and the sources on our source sheet. And out of love to the people that are with us here on Zoom, I already see so many beloved faces, and also on Facebook, the link of our source sheet that you can find when we return from our meditation in a deeper sense. I think it's source number 3, if I'm not mistaken. You can find the source sheet in our chat here on Zoom if you haven't downloaded yet, and on Facebook we just posted the link as well.
Thank you so much. That will definitely help people. But you can put this source sheet away for just one moment. And I want to invite you to just take a moment to really ground in wherever you are right now. Really feeling the floor beneath you, knowing that even if you're way up in a high-rise building here in New York, that somewhere below us, we're being held up by the earth itself. And allowing the body to just sink down into wherever you're sitting. Imagining the earth below supporting us, maybe out of love. And then allowing the spine to lift up and create some space inside so that you can feel the breath moving in. You can keep your eyes open if you like and gently focused, or you can gently close them, whatever's more comfortable for you. You can relax your hands. Maybe relax your shoulders a little. Noticing any place in the body that just is a little tense. Just bring a little gentleness there, allowing it to soften, not forcing. And maybe observing if you can really feel the sensation of breath entering the body. Maybe you feel it in the nostrils or in the back of the throat. The autumn, almost autumn air coming in to the warm body. Maybe you feel it in your chest or in your belly. And then allowing it to flow back out into the world. And maybe you can see that as you take in your next breath, imagine that you're taking it in as a gift of love. That breath coming into your body, sustaining it and enlivening it, is a gift of love. It doesn't even matter from whom or from what. Just experiencing it in some way as love. And as you breathe back out, there's something in you that wants to give love back out into the world. Maybe there's a specific person or a place that you would like to direct your love to in a healing kind of a way. In this dreadful world with so much suffering. That we can breathe in, receiving love that enlivens us in this minute. And then breathe that love back out wherever it's most needed. You can choose where to direct it. Breathing in, receiving the love. Breathing out, sending it back out. Breathing in, receiving it as a gift of love. Breathing out back into the world. Breathing in this gift of breath, of life, of love. Breathing out. Returning that life, that love. Sensing back into the body again. Just noticing where you feel the breath most vividly. Maybe it's different now than it was at the beginning. Checking in with the climate of your heart. Noticing if love or maybe awe is present. And if it's not, that's okay. Whatever is there is there. And that's just fine. These beautiful moments of life and awareness and love and awe. And when you're ready, you can come back to the Zoom or the Facebook feed and to this amazing community of people practicing love and awe together.
כי כשמך כן תהילתך קשה לכעוס ונוח לרצות כי לא תחפוץ במות המת כי אם משובו בדרכו וחיה ועד יום מותו תחכה לו אם ישוב מיד תקבלו אמת כי אתה הוא יוצרם ואתה יודע יצרם כי הם בשר ודם אדם 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 יסודו מעפר וסופו לעפר בנפשו יביא לחמו משול כחרס הנשבר כחציר יבש וכציץ נובל כצל עובר וכענן קלה וכרוח נשבת וכאבק פורח וכחלום יעוף ואתה הוא מלך אל חי וקיים
dancing between love and awe and awe and love and love and awe and awe and love. So I wanted to share with you this evening text number 4 on the source sheet. This is a short poem by an Israeli poet named Zelda. Zelda grew up in a very religious home and wrote just really extraordinarily beautiful poetry of ecstasy and of spiritual connection and of nature and of her yearning for spiritual connection and her experiences with spiritual connection. So this short piece is translated by Marcia Falk, who is a beautiful poet of her own right and translator of liturgy, and she was actually friends with Zelda. They knew each other and were longtime friends. So I always love Marcia Falk's translations of Zelda poems. So this poem doesn't have a title, but I think it brings our love and awe together so beautifully. There was something startling in the hue of the sky. I was amazed that the treetops swayed gently with no shadow of fear. I wanted to flee from the white sky, but the small garden showed me signs that his mercy had not ceased. There was something startling in the hue of the sky. I was amazed that the treetops swayed gently with no shadow of fear. I wanted to flee from the white sky, but the small garden showed me signs that his mercies had not ceased. So we wanted to give us an opportunity to learn from each other's experiences. So in just a moment, we're going to break into breakout rooms for those of you who are in the Zoom, and for those of you who are who are on Facebook. We would love your comments in the chat. Well, you can sort of be as part of, Shani and I are going to have our own little group here with those of you on Facebook. And we'll have 10 minutes. And the prompt is, so Zelda saw signs of divine love in the garden. So where do you see signs of mercy? Where do you see signs of love that help sustain you during these days of awe and sometimes of fear when we want to run away? What helps keep you steady? Where do you see those signs of love? So if Jeremy can help break us into breakout rooms, that would be amazing. And we'll check back with you in about 10 minutes. And with those of you on Facebook, stay tuned. We'll let everybody move into their groups. And then we would love to hear, if you put in the chat, we'd love to hear some of your answers. And Shani and I will share some of ours. So see you hopefully shortly.
So I guess this is where we get to share where we have experienced or we've been witnesses to signs of mercy, of love, as people are kind of disappearing to a good place on our screens, hopefully, to share with one another, and as maybe our chat is being filled with comments. Would you like to start, Rabbi? Or
Yeah, sure. So, it's interesting because, one of the places that our tradition says is a sign of love is through Torah study. And I think that's such an interesting thing that the kind of joy that can come from learning something new. I think about Torah very, very expansively. It doesn't have to be necessarily, the written Torah that we think about, but there can be such joy in learning something new and that the human being can do that, that we're not stuck in our old ways all the time, that we can meet someone new or have a new experience or read a book or see a film or like whatever it is that shifts the way that we see things. Like to me, that's a sign of mercy. It's a sign of love, that we can grow and change and evolve and see what happens next.
I didn't think about that. I mean, that's why it's good to study with someone else, right? I definitely did not think about that. But where that resonated with me is you made me immediately think. I didn't think about the ritual of blessing, studying Torah, bringing mercy into that, or seeing it as a merciful act or something that can bring us to a place of love and mercy. But that made me immediately think that in our Torah service, we have Ava Rachamim. One of the ways we describe God is a merciful God, right? There's so many ways to describe God, so many names for God. And in our high holidays, we might even name all of them, some of them only in Unitane Tokef that we just sang. Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, and not to forget maybe right now in our study that there's a place for God as a merciful God. I think we definitely saw that in the verses we recited from Unetane Tokef just a while ago. I was thinking of something a little different. I was thinking about a very kind of day-to-day situation that happened to me in Israel. It happened it was kind of like a short time after I got back from living in New York. And from spending time with Central Synagogue and as a cantorial student on HUC campus in New York. And I have to say it was definitely a cultural shock for me, being encountered every day on public transportation, on the street, by people who needed help, who I did not know. Who probably did not have homes, but I'm not even sure what their situation was. But obviously people who needed rachamim, who needed mercy. And that was something I did not really know how to handle, I'll be honest, when I was in New York. It really kind of shook me and was very overwhelming. The amount of requests you got for mercy on a daily basis. When I got back to Israel, not long ago, I was preparing to write a sermon for rabbinical school, and I was sitting in this local coffee shop. And I'll call him a beggar. That's what I'll call him right now. Came in and started to ask for money. It was right before, I think it was right before Purim. And he asked, and my immediate reaction was to decline and not really create eye contact, kind of like a subway situation. Don't create eye contact. If you look, you pay, right? In some kind of a way, whether if it's giving money or whether if it's seeing pain and needing to deal with it. So that's how I reacted. But then I started to see that everyone knew this person and they were giving him money. Everyone knew him by name. And I wasn't really in New York anymore. I was in a local coffee shop in Jerusalem. And I decided to to chase him down and to say, excuse me, I'd like to give you something. And here's the moment of mercy when he looked at me and he said, I knew you'd come. So I actually felt like I was the student at that moment, writing a sermon and learning from somebody who knew I would come when I didn't even know that I would be there in that way.
Oh, that is so beautiful. That is an incredibly beautiful story.
And I promise I came into this question that our prompt without knowing I was going to tell that story. But that's what learning Torah, right? That's why it is how you describe.
Well, it's interesting to me also, like I was thinking about another example of mercy that I see sort of that in the world. You know, my husband and I have a foster son who was at a certain point in his life, like really in terrible trouble, like really terrible trouble, and was on the subway and ended up asking someone for help who himself was in terrible trouble, but had enough sort of spaciousness to be able to see this much younger, much more vulnerable kid and to help steer him in a place where he could get all the support that he needed, and eventually, got him to us. And I think about that man that he met in the subway, who himself is in great need, is in tremendous need, but who had enough compassion, rachamim, really, that mercy, to be able to see this, that I could actually be of service to someone else. And, and really, I think saved his life, really saved his life. Like, really extraordinary. Just like some random guy on the subway. It's incredible.
Wow. Right? These don't feel anymore like small signs or a small garden. It just goes to show how sometimes one moment of connecting can have such a great effect on the world or on the human experience. It can save lives. It can really save lives.
But let's go back to Zelda's garden for just one moment, because I think sometimes, like, the beauty in the garden that comes up, that is just sort of this miraculous thing that just sort of, like, how does it even happen, is the thing that can open up the awesomeness and the love to be able to give someone the courage to then go out and connect with another person. Sometimes it's those little specks of beauty that make all the difference in the world.
And everyone, we all have it in our DNA to be able to do it. You don't have to be a learned person in Torah. It's a good thing to have in your life. Beseder. You don't have to be an expert in your field. It's our nature as human beings. We can tap into that small garden. It's not something that we can't do. So I think maybe you're bringing us back to yes, looking at it as something that's doable, maybe, or that's present and accessible to everyone.
Exactly. Exactly. I
I
wonder if
see.
we have any comments, yeah, on Facebook of
Yeah, so
others
I'm
who
starting to
wanted.
scroll down and take a look. Let's see. First of all, I see so many people are with us and so many wonderful comments.
Wow, and from all over, my goodness.
Oh,
From
meaningful
Sao
relationships
Paulo.
house have brought me to encounter mercy. Watching my daughter, I connect to that. I'm a young mother. I have an 11-year-old son that sometimes you've heard because when mommy sings, at 3 a.m. for Central Synagogue or 7 p.m., sometimes he lets out a huge cry, and that has no mercy in it. I'll tell you. And but there's so in that relationship and so many meaningful relationships, right? Um, oh, the communal love.
Oh, this is sweet.
Watching my child's soccer game. So
Being in
yeah,
a forest, holding infants, playing with dogs, all amazing signs.
amazing signs. Sunlight underwater.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah, these are good. When I spend time with my hospice patients,
Oh,
dead
wow.
cancer, dead cancer. It's good to see you, by the way.
That's very
So
powerful.
again, all so many different types of ways to relate
Yeah,
to this
yeah.
question, to this experience.
It's really powerful. I think it's one of the things then that is so interesting about the coming into it for the holidays, because we think of the high holy days as being so grand. I think it's one of the things that many of us are worried about coming up. Like, how do we have that sense of grandeur, of the awe? But to know that it's like these little everyday things, right? They can be very small and intimate and everyday, but then how do we expand them and expand their meaning and depth?
And maybe this high holiday season is a little different than other high holiday seasons. I know that Central Synagogue has transformed, and that's also found its way, by the way, is present in our Facebook chat. Where do I connect? Uh,
Right, right.
who, who's via Zoom, who's via Facebook. In a Tenet Tokef, we say who's by fire, who's by water. It's like, wow,
Lahavdil.
we have to, hopefully. but we've really, things have changed. Things have changed. It's not what we're used to. And one thing that Central Synagogue brings with it is a sense of grandeur and
Yes.
majesty, just the space of the sanctuary. But this high holidays, talking about a small garden, is was so smart in the sense, and so sensitive in the sense that we're going to be in our homes. Also in Israel, by the way, we're going to be in lockdown again for high holidays. Looks like,
Mm,
um, and so also we maybe 10 people will be able to gather for services, but not more than that. And Central Synagogue has moved completely online, and this invites us to go into our internal space, into our homes, and in our home we can discover ourselves, and maybe we're disconnecting from the big grand spaces that really were so inspiring and allowed so the awe, but
mm-hmm,
also other emotions to resonate, a strong communal voice. And here
mm-hmm.
we can maybe we can reflect upon ourselves and see those smaller signs in our homes, and look at that as a wonderful invitation for some spiritual work we can do in this high holidays.
I'm not even sure I would call them smaller. They're just more internal because I think, so much of much of what the holidays are inviting us to do is uh, to really take a look at our lives and at how precious they are and how brief they are and how um, difficult and glorious they are, and all the things that we yearn for, and the way that we want to live in this world with all the pressures pushing us in different directions. And sometimes we don't even get to do that internal work because the the majesty and the pageantry is so beautiful that um, we don't go to that more interior, deep place.
Hmm.
So, so it's certainly going to be different, but I think if we bring that sense of awe and love,
And that's
then
a
we
very
can be
important
where we need to go.
between small and big, and
Yeah,
that internal, external, personal, communal, because it really isn't. It's not a hierarchy. Um,
exactly.
Spirituality just, it doesn't really work that way. I think so from my experience.
So maybe we can close the breakout groups and bring everyone back in so that we can bring this community back together. And maybe as we're doing that, um, for those of us who are on the Zoom, that we can put it back into gallery mode for just a moment so that we can see each other's faces, um, these beautiful faces, everyone doing the best that they can, making sense of these times that we're in. And for those of you in the Facebook feed, um,
Look at the
imagining the
people there's such a live chat, and imagine the faces maybe.
exactly beautiful. So
Hello, Shani.
Hello to all the familiar and non-familiar faces. In a way, maybe now we're already in familiar grounds through our study together and our sharing of music and our emotions, our spirituality. It's good to see you all.
So, Tani, do you want to take us into our final musical offering for the evening?
Yes. Wow, we've made it to this point. So, I think when we were thinking about this evening, how do you take the first step into opening some gates before we imagine, fast forward, the end, the climactic moment of Yom Kippur closing the gates. So we're all about making we're all about feeling the motion of opening. Uh, and so one thing though that needs to happen for us to be able to open ourselves to do the work to connect to love, to connect to awe, and to so many other elements and components in this high holiday season, but also just in the world, we need to heal. I think the world is really signaling that there's a lot of healing that needs to be done here in Israel, in New York, and all around the world. And so we really wanted to send off with a prayer for healing. And this prayer that I'll share with you is also on your source sheet. It's the last attachment. And what's kind of really awesome and different about this prayer for healing, and it's again a religious poem, a piyut, and sets it apart from other prayers for healing that you might know, is that it's designed to be sung to someone who has been ill but returns to the community. So there's not a set part for this poem in a prayer service, but rather when somebody was sick and had to be away from communal life and then returns, that moment that that person steps into, let's say, a synagogue, is when the community spontaneously breaks out in song. And so really, for the to remember that this season is a lot about returning to oneself, to the community, physically and not physically. But we could also leave here open a small garden of hope that we may and may we return to see each other also in body and not only in spirit. And so this is Rifat Tzili to end our program. Rifat Tzili el ne'eman ki ata rofe uman. Rifat Tzili el ne'eman ki ata rofe uman. At roshi shulchalshi v'ten koach lenafshi. At roshi shulchalshi v'ten koach lenafshi. Petach shar harachamim ram shochen bamromim. Petach shar harachamim ram shochen bamromim. Alav dach simchas dach en merachem biladach. Alav dach simchas dach en merachem biladach. El chai retze tefilati v'chusha le'ezrati. El chai retze tefilati v'chusha le'ezrati. Bimhera derokera le'am ben hagvira. Bimhera derokera le'am ben hagvira. Bimhera derokera le'am ben hagvira. Bimhera.
So may the gates truly be open for us as we are entering into this season of the days of awe. May they be open to us for healing, for numerous signs of mercy and love, for the opportunity of connecting in with awe and wonder, so that we can truly do the inner work that we need to do to make these high holy days memorable, not just because of all of the things happening around us, but because of what's truly happening in our open hearts that allow us to connect with one another. So blessings of sweetness and goodness for all of you in this high holy day season. L'shana tova umituka to you all. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.